There was a hearing for a California man who authorities believe communicated with the Abundant Life Christian school shooter. The deadly attack happened last month. The 15-year-old shooter was found dead when officers got to the school. Authorities believe she communicated with Alexander Pfaffendorf, a 20-year-old man in California who was planning a mass shooting with her.
I'd just like to apologize to the court, and then in terms of the future, in terms of the violence protective order, whatever you feel is necessary and the Carlsbad Police Department feels is necessary, I'm willing to accept.
FBI agents stopped and detained Pfaffendorf on December 17th. During an FBI interview, he reportedly admitted to telling RupNow he would arm himself and target a government building.